Our community has become a war zone. Satellites have been drawn. Casualties are piling up. It's an all-out gender war. But what are we fighting for? Join the Royal Meetup, talk panel, and podcast. As host, Raphaala, Yasharahla, and co-host, Princess Adah, gather with brothers and sisters from all over the U.S. to discuss this crucial topic.
I guess we can go ahead and start with somebody. Introduce yourselves. Give us your name and state and city.
All right. Well, I'm David Emmanuel, Jacksonville, Florida. Name, state, and city. Yeah, that's it.
All right. All right. I see a lot of people's on mute.
My name is Felicia, and I'm here in Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yes.
Okay. Hey there. Greetings. Thank you for joining us.
Dalo Saku, Jacksonville, Florida.
Brother Diallo, hey, greetings. Thank you for joining us. Say that one more time, Pastor Dawson. Peace.
Preacher Dawson, Jacksonville, Florida. What's up,
Preacher
family?
Dawson. Okay, he wants to be called Preacher Dawson, just so everybody know.
Brother Sakep out of Orlando, Florida.
Nice to meet you, brother. Nice to meet you. Okay, who else then? Give us a background information on everyone too, as well, so that way we can all learn our boundaries or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm David Emmanuel, comedian, actor, filmmaker, conscious hip hop artist, and poet. I got to get back on my poet stuff too. I need to do more, and I'm a spiritual guy, really spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm balanced. So I'm just gonna breathe my way through. I know that everybody has their own perspective, so I have the patience to allow you to have your perspective, even if it's different from mine. And we only see through our own eyes, through our own lens. So,
right.
And no need of beating each other up over perspective. So I'll let you win in a minute. So I'm about that calmness and that balance. That's me. So you can do whatever you do, and I'm just going to observe it.
I totally agree with you 110, 15%. Likewise.
Okay, my name is Felicia Middlebrooks. I'm a community activist. I own a nonprofit organization that deals with domestic violence.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I am here in Louisiana. I'm a native of Atlanta, Georgia. That's my home.
Okay.
So here in Louisiana, following the voice of God, doing some things here for domestic violence. And I am one of those who believe in your opinion is your opinion. We all have one.
Right.
But let's respect each other's opinion. And learning how to be patient and listening, being an avid listener, listening to what you're saying and what you're not saying.
Yes.
Understanding that women think differently than men, and all we have to do is be willing to listen.
That
That's
part.
yeah, and that's how I live life. Let's just be willing to listen.
Right, right. Absolutely. I can totally relate with that. Yeah, thank you for all you do. That's some good work you're doing, sis.
Thank
Because
you.
that is a huge issue that we have in our community right now is domestic violence on all different levels.
Yes.
And so I'm assuming you're a Christian background and faith.
Well, I'm gonna say this: I'm a God follower. I do not necessarily profess to be a Christian, but I do try to follow the Word of God. Spiritually led, and truly do believe that there is a higher power than ourselves. Yes.
That part. Okay. Yeah, because this panel here is different from all the others that we've done in the past. Princess and I, we're from the Israelite community. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
on this platform, we have different panelists coming from all different parts of the country and coming from all different faiths and backgrounds. So that's the only reason why I'm asking. So that way we'll know how to flow together without conflicting.
I've listened to you many of times, sister.
Oh, okay.
And I like your thoughts, the way you think, the concept, and so I'm willing to, like I said, listen and hear. Knowledge is power. I believe in that. So as much knowledge, yes, and not much knowledge as we can get, that gives us more power on how to deal with each other and the world itself.
Exactly. And it has to start with somebody, you can't have a forest fire without a light being a match light being flicked.
That's it.
Okay. Who is that? Who else is on here? Okay, I see more people coming in. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Of course, most people on here is very familiar with me. My name is Raphaala Yasharahla. I am the CEO of Truth Over Traditions Corporation, as well as the Adah Management, LLC. Princess and I, we co-host on this Royal MeetUp platform talk panel. I am a humanitarian at heart and civil rights activist as well. I'm a mother of 3 adult children. And I live in Columbus, Ohio, originally from Cleveland, Ohio, but I've lived in diverse cities around the country. I am a product of a female pastor, and I went a totally different direction when I went into the Israelite faith community. And so my path has been very interesting. And so now I'm all about pursuing my purpose in life, and I'm constantly evolving. So I descend there.
Thank you. Brother Sakep, Raphaala Mustafa. My background is engineering, construction management, consultant for over 35 years, actually 40. And as it relates to this topic, I was a mental health tech for a nonprofit for a little while I was in college. And I've always been involved in resolution disputes because you deal with that in construction with employees, workers, and lawyers, all types of different conditions and situations. So as it relates to how we can dissect, correct, and redirect, that's pretty much where I can dwell on that matter. And then as far as my spiritual background, I'm in the Kemetic Society, the Yasharahla Society, as well as the sister out in Atlanta with the group there. And do a lot of healing work, actually on myself, practice on myself first. That's how I got involved with it, with sister out of Atlanta. But with the SAR sect, it was just, we just kind of met through, through the forces of the energies of the universe. And, and I found the tradition through my work. So as a builder, that's how I actually got involved in Kemetic spirituality, because when you study Ma'at, the actual root of it leads you back to mathematics. And I started seeing it in the work, and I just got curious and couldn't find anybody to explain why I could kind of see it and understand it, but didn't know what it really meant, and it can take you down a lot of different places. But that's how I wound up getting to where I am. And I actually use it as much as possible and live it.
That's what's up. Thank you.
I guess
Thank
I'll
you.
go ahead. I'm Preacher Dawson. I've been in ministry I've been preaching since I was 15. For us career-wise, I was working with electrical work. But then God led me to start working with the young people. Department of Juvenile Justice, spent many years working with juvenile justice. And that's a little bit about me. My grandson in the truck with me, so he's having a fuss right now. But yeah, been in it for a long time.
Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, Preacher Dawson is doing some great work. I don't know who all on here is from Jacksonville, Florida, but I have witnessed this brother do a lot of great work with young kids. He actually helped me with my son back in the days when I was a single parent. He used to get my son on the weekends. And so I really appreciate him for that. And I'm telling you, we need more of that. We need more brothers, paying attention to our sons. If you know that they with a single mother, what have you, I'm telling you, that's a big thing. Thank you, sir. Princess, you still doing some background work there?
I'm here. You just can't see me for some reason. Only my background is showing.
Okay, because I don't want to overtalk you. Okay, who's next? Name, city, spiritual background.
Yeah, my name is Dennis Delamar. I'm a father, husband. I'm a film director. Been in the film industry, acting since college, theater. And I'm coming from a Israelite follower of Yahushua of Nazareth, revolutionary black man, turn the world upside down. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And just on my journey is, I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in the Bible Belt, and just on my journey to manhood and just trying to get to the root of things, ran into him and been following him since then.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a Bible Belt. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving us your time. Everybody, thank you for your time.
Well, I'll add a little bit to my person. I have a nonprofit as well that we use for educational purposes, construction based, and it's spiritual based too, but mostly to get the young men, young women, get them to, see themselves in the greatness and fullness of our ancestors, but not dwell there so much as to be in a fantasy world, but to actually show them the science, technology, engineering, art, and math that can be used towards the future, that they can create. And we have NCCER certification. So that's like a major certification to teach construction and engineering in the private sector. So we go out to big corporations and in the hood, to the high schools. We recruit the students and get them involved early so that they can have a certification for their craft, for their trade, because the world has shifted that it's no longer acceptable just to get a trade. Now you're competing, the same way you do to go to college to get a score to be certified, and then they're using that to say, okay, we're going to put this group of people here that scored at this level, and then this group of people over here, well, we'll just, keep coaching them, but they're going to have to, be that grunt force, a labor force, if you know what I mean, versus someone that can use their brain and a skill. And so that's where it's slowly migrating to, and we're sometimes, called up to be the last ones to be in the loop on things. So we're working really diligently to help put the word out on that, to help coach things up.
That's
in that
great.
manner. And I work with a lot of Hebrew.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, ma'am. I was going to say I work with a lot of Hebrew brothers too. We have partnerships. We all investment partners, and out of in Orlando, and we do what you were saying with the young men. We would take them on weekends, and give them skills, for how to interview, how to talk to people about money and investing and business, and take them out to have fun. We would go out there and play volleyball with them, and in the classroom. We have some brothers that are teachers, and we set up a round robin training so that we have, brothers that are in prominent positions rotate through the classrooms to come talk to our young people, because they getting isolated into these, I don't know what you want to call these doggone programs they have now where they're out there targeting them and saying, okay, all of them got to be in the class for this period, for this amount of time, because they're supposed to be the worst of the worst in the system, but we're making good use of that time by exploring their minds and not so much telling them what to do, but asking them questions on how they think they got here, in the condition, how do they see the music, how do they see the movies, how do they see what's going on in the street, how do they see what's going on with their parents, and using that as a segue to get them to spill their heart out, and then like you say, the same process to dissect that and get some correction going, and it turns them around. It turns them around in the schools. Every time we do it, we have to move to a new school.
Wow, that's some great work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I have a lot of respect for you. We need more men like you in our community doing things like that.
Well, it's not just me; it's a group of us. So.
Yeah. Can you put your information in the chat for us to reach out to you, because it may be some people on here who may want to network with you and help you out with that, or vice versa. Matter of fact, everybody on here, please put your information in the chat so that we can support your businesses and your endeavors. Definitely.
Hello, shalom. This is Leora. How's everybody?
Peace, Miss Leora. It's good to see you.
You too. I've been in the truth for about almost 3 years, and I'm still learning, and I'm appreciating my walk and studying with my assembly here in Louisville, Kentucky. I do work with the youth as well. I have a nonprofit, and it's called Emoji Soul Youth. What I do is help individuals, the young people, to know their Black history by doing dramatic arts, theater, plays, like little short plays. And we go around in different venues to project that, to put it on display. So I do Black history. I also do Black history skits as well. I mean, Bible history skits, so they can know Bible characters, because sometimes we have a lot of children that do not go to church, but when they go to the community centers, Boys and Girls Clubs, I try to incorporate some of their learning from the church into little acting where they can act it out. So I do that. Also, I am doing a bigger project to incorporate some of the families of the children in a bigger mission, like rebuilding families and reaching out to single people, single parents and singles in general, to do a curriculum to train people about relationships as well, to teach them about courtship and all that. So we're just trying to find other spiritual leaders to help out, to teach your curriculum, to teach it to the young people locally so they can know the truth about relationship, what to look for, to be prepared, because we've been misinformed for so many years, and they're not totally, you know, they don't get the right information, and the media, social media is very misleading. They get these misconstructs from TV, from radio. We know that. So my job is to, teach the young people to follow us in the book, in the Bible.
Right.
So I want to break it down to the basics with them. So that's what I do for my nonprofit, and trying to help youth to understand their Black history and their Bible history according to the Most High Yah.
We have a few people on here who is in the same field that you in, and you definitely need to link up with them and network.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. And we have the panelists on here are all from different faiths and backgrounds, just so you know. We have folks here from the Christian community, the Kemetic community, the conscious community, Ma'at, Buddhists. We have all different types of people here. So this is a totally different world today. And I think we're still waiting on Sister Princess. She's dealing with some technical difficulties at this moment.
No, I'm here. I've been here.
Oh, okay, you ready?
I said to my you can only see my background, but I'm actually on camera. I don't know why my face isn't showing.
Okay, yeah, and this meeting is being recorded, everyone, just so you know. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's what's up.
So I wanted to did everyone get the I guess agenda that I sent with the kind of what the topics and bullet points we will be touching on today? I think I tried to send it to everyone.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be now. I've sent these out before, so I'll say the same thing. We may get to everything that's on there, we may not. But like Sister said, we're all from different backgrounds, but I do believe that this is kind of a common thing amongst us as a Black people. So we're dealing with gender wars today. And for those who are kind of active on social media, I'm sure at some point you have seen the bickering, the hateful posts, the passport brothers, the sisters divesting. I think there's a new one called 4B or something, where women are basically saying, I don't want to have their babies. I don't want to date them. I don't want to marry them. I don't want to be intimate with them. Of course, you have those saying that we should go to other races, if you will, is better than our own. There's so much negativity, and it may not represent the entire population of Black people here, but it's definitely seems to be a growing issue. And I'm kind of thinking if it's more so us in America, or is it a global thing? Because I definitely see a lot of so-called Black Americans bickering back and forth about, who's better, who's more toxic. I've heard Black women are the reason why the Black community is so messed up now. Black sisters are saying, no, it's because you Black men haven't stepped up, and so forth and so on. So that's what we're going to be dealing with today. And we're going to try to do it in an orderly manner if possible. We may not all agree, but let's just keep it respectful. I know there's different faiths in the room, but again, we're just going to respect that and try to take on this topic and see if we can't come up with some solutions. So I broke it down into 3 sections, which is dissect, correct, and redirect. So first and foremost, we want to see if we can dissect this problem. And after we've done that, we're going to try to correct the mistakes. And then we're going to go to the redirect to find solutions. So if everybody is on one accord on that, we can start with the first section, which is let's dissect the problem. And I'm going to put the first question out there, and feel free to go in any order, but just be courteous. If you can, try to keep your responses under 2 minutes, because I know we can get really passionate and go on and on. So let's try to keep each response at 2 minutes to give everyone a chance who would like to chime in, a chance to speak. So the first thing I would like to ask is, what are we fighting for, and when did we become enemies? And is this war of our own making? So it's really a 3-part question. Okay, so I'll repeat that again. What are we fighting for? When did we become enemies? And is this a war of our own making? And anyone go ahead, chime in.
Yeah, I would chime in just real quick. I think you said what are we fighting for? When did we become enemies? So it's like a 3-part question. I mean, I can answer that second one first. You know, from a scriptural point of view, it's you know, the garden. You know, you got to go back to the garden. You got to go back to the first situation. You got to go back to the 2 things that I've been really studying Genesis. And the first thing you see in the breakdown of the family is the faith and also guarding. When you look at our communities today, the major thing that is happening when we talk about drugs being put in the communities, we talk about guns, we talk about billboards, we talk about whatever vice you want to talk about, you know, there's no unity, but there's no guarding. There's no guarding of the community. There's no guarding of the women, and that starts with the men. So I think that the first breakdown, when you look even in the Bible, the fact that the devil is even able to approach the woman and the man is not there is one of the first issues that you know, men have not been protecting what's the most valuable assets of the community. You know, the children, the women, the fatherless, the widows, you know, all those things. And so I think that when it comes to that, that's where it started. And it started and then I don't know, that might be more than 2 minutes though. But just that first part, you know, when do we become enemies? And I think it's a making of our own. Yeah, I think it's with the help of the devil, of course, but I think it's a making of our own because, you know, just as Yahuwah told Cain, you know, sin is at the door, but you must rule over it. So, you know, we have the power through Mashiach to rule over sin and things that are happening. But there are forces, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's whatever it is, to take advantage of. But we can't blame it on those things. We have to take responsibility for what we have allowed to happen.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. How you doing?
Peace and love.
Peace and love, my beautiful. This is wonderful. Well, my opinion will be for what we're fighting for. I think that we have a false sense of freedom, that we're being told, okay, as a wife, you're not free if your husband's telling you to maintain a household, maintaining this and maintaining that. You're not free if you're not out there in the world. So it's this falsification of freedom. Next thing is, I think what contributed also, this going back what the brother said, yes, in the beginning, also the fact that mostly this, you hear this issue being mostly told among American-born Blacks. You don't see this brothers, our diaspora brothers and sisters having these complications. It's mostly among American-born Blacks. We're probably the most highlighted people, but when they push a lot of that feminism into our community, and they were trying to tell us, you know, to restructure our family. Our families was actually going pretty well. And the last thing is what we can do to fix it is that first, all thing we need to go back to the Most High. When we went against the laws of the Creator, it just perpetuated more and more. So we had to get back to the Most High.
That's good. We need someone from another faith background to answer that question.
Okay.
I want to hear different perspectives.
What was the middle question? As far as what we're fighting for, I'm saying that everybody's fighting to be valued. That's what I'm saying we're fighting for. And I think the third question, is it someone else that divided us or put this system in place and stuff like that? I put, even though there's systems and symbols and all type of things worked on the masses and shaping the narrative, like you still have to have accountability for yourself. You got to be self-governed. You got to be disciplined. You got to eat right. You got to get your spirit right. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do in spite of what other people are doing. It will never touch you. It will never, and you can actually create the environment and world that you want to exist in, you know? So it's about tapping into self and setting your boundaries and standing strong and firm. You know, a lot of people do that. Oh yeah, and I think the other one might have been about the division of the man and the woman, and you know, us saying that because men aren't protecting and stuff like that, we have to look at the dynamics of, there are a lot of single mother households. Like I grew up kind of in a single mother household, and a lot of people came out of those okay without a father being there. So some of us see that from that perspective. So I think we shouldn't strive to place blame as much, but maybe find a neutral ground. And you know, of course, men could be more accountable too. But what happens when there is no man? You know, so that's about it.
Yeah.
Said we're enemies.
In my opinion, I believe there's a lot of embedded animosities lying dormant in between us as well. A lot of resentment. And a lot, like David was saying, based on my opinion, a lot of I know I came from a single parenting background, going back maybe 2 generations. And a lot of us women, we were programmed not to trust Black men. Don't trust him. Don't put your faith in him. Even though he may be a good man, we can still hear our voices from our ancestors, you know, telling us don't trust Black men. They ain't no good. You know, they gonna leave you, and you know, you can't trust them. Just can't trust them. And so you have generations of that floating around in between us as well. That's just my opinion. I descend there.
Right. The way I see a lot of the overall picture that I see, that a lot of the stuff that was fed into our ancestors' mind back in the days, the separation that I was kind of beat into under the Willie Lynch stuff. Now, I agree with my brother earlier about all beginning with the fall of man and all that stuff, but a lot of this most recent stuff roots to that. For the women not to be with the Black man as they should, or they together, they was able to make changes. They was able to push things for the community, but they seen that strength that they had as a unit and the family unit, and they still go more in depth about it when you look at all the welfare system, all the other stuff they got going on. But I just stop right there because I know you said 2 minutes, but it roots, a lot of the recent stuff roots back to that when they was trying to separate these families and all that and break them up. And
I hear you. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of psychology behind this too, this topic. There's a lot of psychology. And I in my opinion, I feel that a lot of this particular issue in our community began in our childhoods. How do you all feel about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. You know, as a filmmaker, I've done a lot of work in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you know, home of Black Wall Street. And, you know, I talked to some of the elders there, And one of the things that, you know, like I said, a lot of people blame stuff on white supremacy. I'm not saying it's not the culprit to a lot of things, but I talked to some elders to where when they were, you know, trying to, you know, taking land and, you know, the time of what was it, integration, you know, a lot of the black people tell me that you know, people were selling out. People were selling out the community. And, you know, people were you know, the people that were trusted to be the leaders, and oftentimes there was no band of people to come and fight. So when they were taking the things, you know, nobody was saying, hey, come on, let's get out, man. What you doing? You don't know this is going on? You know, so a lot of things, I think, you know, some leaders have said a lot of these bad things happen. I'm not saying just, but a lot of things happen because ain't nobody been standing up. Ain't nobody been coming.
I agree.
Ain't nobody been risking their life. You know what I'm saying? And then I think a lot of times with the black community, you saw Malcolm, you saw Martin, and you seen them, you know, Fred Hampton, whatever it is, you saw them, you know, kind of the brother mentioned the Willie Lynch, you know, they get the strong slave and they demonstrate on him, and then that makes everybody fearful to, you know, come against the oppressor. But I think that a lot of these things have happened because of fear and because of the lack of unity and protection that the men, like I said, it starts with the strength of the community to be able to say, hey, you can't bring, you know, hey, sidebar, I'm gonna just say this real quick. If y'all want to know what I'm talking about, if y'all know about Charles Dutton, he's an actor. I remember that show The Rock, right? So it's a scene in there with The Rock and this other actor. I'm gonna land real quick. Dang, what's the dude? Dang, it'll come to me, but it's a scene that you can look it up. It is talking about, you know, it was a drug dealer, and he was checking the drug dealers and like, nah, you're not gonna be selling on my block. This our home. You can't come around here. And I know that's, you know, that's TV, but what I'm saying is that is missing in a community to say, the men to say, you know, you can't be on this block. Children, y'all can't be out here past 10. You see what I'm saying? That's what we got to go back to look at each other and say, your life is like my life, and I value it. So if it happened to you, it's happening to me.
Right. That part. I totally agree. I just want to clap on that. I agree with that.
Yes, I agree too. That is so much needed. That defense, that protection. Yes, we need that.
Yeah, we
back,
need our
unity.
men to stand up and take charge and get rid of this fear. Like he was saying, fear. I agree with that. There's too much fear in our community.
Yeah. I know.
Somebody's got to be willing to die.
I know we got two brothers on here that I've seen with my own eyes and heard them go above and beyond the call of duty. Brother Sarkep and Brother Dilo Saku. And so most of the men that is around me, like, they go, you know, boots to the ground for our people. Brother Sarkep, when we was doing a show, I think it was Blue Pill, Red Pill in Regency Mall, and these young people were acting up and the police had got them, and he went out there and got them from the police and brought them in there where we are. And I was like, why'd you bring them in here? I'm trying to focus on the show, you know, but, and he wind up getting the youth a place to stay. I think he got food, he gave them transportation, because a lot of us grew up and some of our parents were like protectors. You know, so we would have to come up with a thing to start motivating other young men to be these protectors. Mainstream media and what's put out there and all that emasculates them. It's easy to go along to get along, so they'll sell out too and have all lesser melanated beings using the N-word like it's cool. Like there's so many things, but us as artists, it's our job and our duty to create things to help change the minds that we want to see in the world. That's the alchemy of us, our being, if we really want that. And, you know, in my opinion, in my perspective.
Yes.
Totally agree. I'm feeling that. Yeah.
Greetings, everyone.
Peace.
I just wanted to piggyback off of this. Is a great topic. I've been listening to everyone's comment because when discussing gender wars, this is a crucial topic that can get sensitive. But we all have to be willing to be open and willing to listen to everyone's diverse perspectives, and know that we have to have community empowerment and building solidarity and fostering a dialogue where we have to be able to create spaces for healing and empowerment within the Black community, and which is important when we're addressing these gender wars and working towards gender justice.
I like to add something if I can.
Totally agree.
May I add a statement?
Yes, brother, go ahead.
Oh, please.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, I want to say hi to everyone on the call, first and foremost. But more
peace. That's my brother from California. Yeah. Hey.
Absolutely. It's good to be here. And I'm listening to this conversation. First of all, Shalom, and I just want to say, hello to everyone. Just give respect. And it's a very deep conversation because one of the brothers here just, I think Brother Dennis mentioned the book, Willie Lynch, The Making of a Slave. It seems like we have to ask ourselves, who are we for all this attention and focus to be on us? Because I've noticed some things about it. I've noticed that we have intentionally and deliberately been infiltrated in our culture. Everybody is watching us. Everybody is copying our moves. Every time we do something, people are doing what we do and making money off of it. So the question now becomes, who are we? Who are us? In proper English, but it still it's still a point. I've noticed that in my lifespan so far, I've seen situations where Black men, when we applied for jobs, we couldn't get it. Women can get jobs and they were paying them higher salaries. Once again, that was dividing our households, because when we be in the house with our woman that had a higher salary, she started to take a different position and started saying, hey, this is what you would do. I need you to get in there and do this. I started seeing things where in my community, they would give, welfare checks to people, but you couldn't have a man in the house. So the man would have to live outside of the house, but the family could get the money, but the man couldn't be in the house. That was breaking up families. I started seeing these systems that were intentionally and deliberately put in place to break up. It looks like our community. We were putting odds intentionally and deliberately against each other. It's almost like, wait a minute. I would see things when I was in different meetings where women would say, hey, you can't date nobody out of no different culture. But then when we would try to talk to our own women, they would mistreat us. I can see like they was harsh towards us, talking bad. So I'm saying, wait a minute. So within our culture, it was almost like an effort to infiltrate it and set us up to be at odds with each other, because I've noticed and made observations. I've seen our women who would be married to someone on a different culture, and they would act totally different. I would see our men with women of a different culture. Our relationships would be different as well. But then when we get involved with our women, it seems like we would have a lot of opposition all the time, frequently. Our communication was off. So it's almost a scenario where I like to say we've been infiltrated and put at odds against each other. So we would have to some kind of way work in our relationships with each other to rebuild our culture, if that makes sense. That's all. I just wanted to put that perspective out there. I hope it's
yes. We'll have to be able to create a systematic change by within our communities. advocating for addressing these issues. And as leaders and as advocates, we would have to educate our community. And because you have a lot of individuals, sisters and brothers, who come from a one-parent home, where you have women and men who came from a two-parent home, who can't relate to what they, you seen your parents working together, you seen your parents if they struggle, they struggle together. And then when you seeing now today, moving forward, where you see a lot of individuals who rather, have all the rights in the world, rather do it themselves. And this is what is causing us to be combative towards each other, because we feel like we're in competition with each other. And so we're, instead of us being in a team, as a team in our household or in our communities, we're in competition with each other. We're trying to see who can do the best, who can live the best, who can have the best, the fattest ring, the baddest wedding, and we have to go back to our morals and values of women knowing their roles and playing their position. I don't want to be a man. And men playing their roles and knowing their positions. So we're taking on other people's behavior. You got women that want to be macho and want to take on a man, and I could do it by myself. I wear the pants in this house. I'm the head of the household. But that's not, that's not spiritual. Right. We are really spiritually depleted in our homes and in our communities, where we just leaving out the most important thing, and that is spirituality. And we don't have no right culture in our culture. So we have to go back to those two main topics, and we have to really work together as community leaders, as community advocates, preachers, missionaries. Everyone who's touching their communities have to share this type of knowledge with the individuals that you're touching on a daily. And also, we as leaders, we have to live by design. We have to practice what we preach. We can't sit up here and say, "Oh, we're for gender war." We're for the right of the man and the woman getting back together. If we're not practicing that, right? And we have to practice what we preach. And this is why we're also losing our communities, because they don't have no trust in anyone.
Yeah, thank you. Head tap, everybody. So, yeah, as it relates to, what are we fighting for? I like what everyone is sharing. And, my person got introduced to some social media. And you're right. You're so right. It was so disturbing to hear, with hundreds of people in a space, the language that was being used towards, the women. And then vice versa, like the sister said, we're not having your children, or, calling people out of their name. And part of what my person does when I'm dealing with young people, the young men and the young women, is like being an old school griot, like share the story. In construction, we always say, in order to get out of the jam, you gotta share the story. And so when we share those stories, like the avatar that the sister said, when you don't, protect your the ancestors' values or anything, your soul won't be at peace. And so that's where we are right now. We have lost sight of self-identity, self-knowledge, and self-revelation. When you read the Bible, it says that you're made in the likeness and the image of God. And so you have to begin to understand what that is. And from a comedic standpoint, being in the image of God is that you're going to walk in truth, you're going to walk in justice, you know, you're going to be in harmony, you're going to be in balance. You, like the sister said, you're going to have a sense of morality, and you're going to have order. Order is in everything. It's not by chance, by circumstance. There's a designer, there's a planner, there's an architect, and there's a builder. And then you got laborers and you got craftspeople. So it's a system. You know, this whole world is built on a system. And so the system for this particular thing, and you know, how do we become enemies, is we didn't build a family. You know, people stopped building families at large. There are people building families, but they're raising children. They're not building a family. And what does my person mean? What does my person mean by that? When I say that, is observing other cultures. I mean, you know, I was in corporate America over 20 years, and, you know, just had opportunities to go visit people, see how they live and see how they operate. And, you know, a lot of our people well off to do as well. But what I noticed is you would have people living with their parents to their 30, 40 years of age, but they was in a family business. Their children and their children's children was raised with grandparents and great-grandparents. You know, they had community property. You know, they had the business to go to. So they had a structure and order and a story, a legacy, the culture, like the sister said earlier, something to cling to that they know that's established, that they know that they could talk about. You know, I spent 10 years with a scout troop at a Jewish synagogue because it was just not too far from a high school, not too far from, you know, our Black community. But what we did is we somewhat infiltrated and was really getting to know them and getting their information, their newspapers, you know, their whole system, and going like, man, this looked like what our ancestors was doing, but these people have mastered it. They build in their own communities. They build in these schools. They isolate their children from other people. They teach them the language of the culture. And so, you know, when we talk about, you know, is this our own doing? I tell a lot of brothers it is, because we let hip hop slide into somebody else's hands and allow people to puppet us around and talk bad about sisters, to talk about killing each other. And I'm a big advocate for protection, because I've been shot and gang banged on, stabbed, shot, shotgun, all kind of violence. However, I was just one of those brothers that caught victim of circumstance from the madness of what was going in people's minds. And so this gender war idea that is occurring is self-inflicted, because people want to be, like Raoub said, they want to be valued, but their value is not based on the likeness of being godly, the likeness of building family, the likeness of leaving legacy for the next people to come behind you and build it up stronger and better. You know, they think that those things are boring for some reason, or they think that they are a misfit, that they don't fit into the popular status quo of social media per se. And so they've fallen into this, I gotta look a certain way, dress a certain way, speak a certain way against a woman to justify my manhood, versus, like the brother said, you know, you put sticks to rocks, and if you know what I mean, and go out and handle your business to protect, you know, yourself and your neighborhood, your community. So you get rid of that foolishness and make people respect who you are, you know, and people will respect us. People will respect us, but we must show that we walk in a certain light, in a certain way, in order to not even gain their respect. It's just an automatic, they'll just bow down. You just gotta raise and elevate your spirituality, like the sister said, to get to that point where they see you and it's automatic. You ain't got to open your mouth. You just walk in the room and they already know. And that's the presence that we got to reattach ourselves to and reaffirm. And it's a process. Like the sister said, it takes discussions like this. It takes this outline that you have to go into community centers and go into the projects and start having some. If you're a barbecue cooker, you know, go cook barbecue in the hood. That's what I'll do to attract people.
Yeah.
You know, go get some veggie dinners or whatever it takes for different groups, and just say, let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation.
You know,
And
that's
then,
actually what Preacher Dawson does. He does that monthly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of what I do in Orlando. That's how we get the young men to come out. Is we start feeding them and just having some good old, earth, wind, and fire, and showing them that, just listen to the words. They're not talking bad about women. They're not banging on each other. We're not killing each other off. And we show them how weak that is to kill yourself versus defend yourself.
Right.
That's like that's an autoimmune disorder. They call it multiple sclerosis. They call it lupus. They call it sarcoidosis. We teach them like the function of the body as it relates to how we are as a body, so they can kind of get the picture that it's self-annihilation.
That's real talk.
I wanted to share something real quick before I move to this next question. So I was reading Elijah Muhammad's book, Message to the Black Man, and there were several quotes that kind of stood out to me, but I'm just going to kind of read a condensed version of them and then move to the next question. So in his book, he says, "It is the knowledge of self that the so-called Negroes lacks, that which keeps them from enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. This belongs to them divinely as much as it does to other nations of the earth." And he also goes on to say, "One of the greatest handicaps among the so-called Negro is that there is no love for self nor for his or her own kind." So with that being said, I want to read this question because everyone's talking about identity, right? So the question is, and I put it in the chat in case you can't hear me. Do you feel the post-traumatic slave disorder still plagues us and affects the Black community home front? Is what we're going through, what we're seeing, because we've been, if you've studied about slavery, seen a slave movie, one thing is that community, family was always ripped apart. They sold us around, moved us around. There was no value put up on us being unified, because everyone knows in unity is power, is strength, and so they had to keep us divided. They would break up families. So is that a carryover? Is that now ingrained in us to not value ourselves, to be as a community, as a solid family unit, to the women to respect their men, the men to respect the women? Because if all we see ourselves is as slaves, why would you ever respect a slave, right? So what do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I wanted to... Somebody was going?
Who's that?
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, my bad. No, I was gonna say, just in regard to that question is, I had a note. I took some notes on that, but it's just if you study any past successful community, there's always a rise and fall, of that community. I'm talking about Black communities, and from what I've seen, like when I study in Black Wall Street, what people don't talk about is, and I tracked it and I got receipts, the moment, where there was founders were, bickering and suing each other from the prostitution, all these things were eternal things. So when it comes to the post-traumatic slave disorder, as regards to that, I think it is still a thing, because when you look at slavery, the slave master validated everything. He validated whether somebody was going to eat, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And in particularly, when you look at empires that in people, like, we have no king. Talking about Black people in general, when you have no king, right, you have no authority, you have no code, you have no standard, you have no law, right? So you have a group of people that now they no longer in slavery, but they have to follow somebody else's standard and law, because they have no law, they have no king. So there's no standard. And when you don't have no standard, you don't have no authority. Because when you look at even wicked nations, they still have, the people that's doing wicked, but they still have a code. They still have a higher, like a leader. And so I think that's the issue when it comes down to the Black community, is everybody wants to be the king. Everybody wants to be the king. And that's why you have the cults. That's why you have the cults. That's why you have people abusing people and all this, because everybody wants to be the king. And just particularly when it comes to, you know, how I'm viewing it from a biblical standpoint is, you know, when you go back into the point where we had righteous kings, the issue is that Israel had rejected Yahuwah as a king, you know, his son as a king. And so when that happened, he was like, yo, since y'all rejecting me, I'm gonna give y'all a king. I'm gonna give y'all a king, but he gonna abuse y'all. He gonna, and that's what's been happening. We've been abused. We have no authority. We have no central standard of law or code or standard. And that makes it tough for everybody to abide by, because nobody's under the rule of law from the king. You know what I'm saying? And then so we have to kind of piece together things, and it's hard to do that when we, you know, I know we coming from different places, but we eventually, if it's going to be anything like the brother mentioned about the Jewish people, but the Jewish people got a code. They got a code. And that's how they're able to, whether they in Australia or whether they in America, they got that same code. You know what I'm saying? That they're able to utilize to gain power in the society. That's just,
they organized.
They organize, you know what I'm saying?
That's our problem. We're not organized at all.
We got to get that.
No structure.
And I will say this, in the king, you know, for me, I feel like the king, you know, the king is Yahushua, you know, the Messiah. I feel like we got to get back to who is going to be our king. Who's going to be the one that's going to give us a law, that's going to give us standard to where we can say, no, this is the standard of the nation. You can't do that. This is the law. Just like you living in America, you can't run the stop sign. We got to have the, you know, you can't do that. That's the law of the nation. You can't do that. You can't go on the radio talking about killing nobody and all this. Like, we got to have that standard, because if there's no standard, then you talk to one person, they saying it's cool. You talk to another person, they saying, oh no, that's bad. So like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. You know, this beast system, which I call the matrix, which is the society that we live in now, I call it the matrix. They've created designs to have us programmed for us to self-destruct ourselves.
Yeah, that's Dr. Francis Cress Wilson mentioned that. And, you know, that's what we did to, you know, it's one of our projects when we go into the schools. The book we first introduced the young people to is Miseducation of the Negro. Mm-hmm. And many people, they overlook that book, but that book, man, it'll put you on point, because
I have that
at first you think he's attacking the so-called pink African or white folks, Europeans, but he's not. What he starts to do is unveil slowly, or peel the onion back to show you how we are self-destructing, and that, there you go, and that the people who are so-called informing and educating us are truly not qualified to educate us. Give you an example from the book. There was a mother, she owned a laundromat, and she learned how to take care of clothes from her mother and the mothers that were, you know, so-called enslaved. And so she took that and made a business out of it, you know, a laundromat, you know. So the daughter and the other children, instead of them going to college to learn business, to come back home to master being people of service to the community, they left in pursuit of other lucre. You get what I'm saying? To chase other higher forms of what they deem to be successful. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, higher forms of being successful, but that's how the communities begin to disintegrate when you're misinformed, not to know that the old way was, yeah, okay, if your dad was a shoe carpenter, you might not want to be one, but you should pick up the skill set, keep it going, and maybe hire some people and become the manager of said shoe carpenter business. And so this post-traumatic slave disorder, I think that is a part of it. Like you were saying, is you get misguided, or like the brother said, someone has validated that you are a laborer. You can't be the engineer. Someone has validated that you, the dishwasher, you cannot be the head chef, restaurateur, business owner. Someone else is validating that you can only be this athlete. You can only be this particular rap style that is now cross-dressing, homosexual type, bi type, transgender type of people now out in the so-called wannabe hip hop community. That these things are buck breaking reminiscence, if I would dare to say, of what they're projecting into the minds of the young people. And they don't know any better. How they know what love is between, two of the same type of people. These type of things are being projected. And I'm getting that from the Nation of Islam's book, the secret relationship between Blacks and Jews. They went in deep showing how these people took little babies at 5 years old, 6, 10 years old, and put them in brothels, young girls and boys, teaching them these things. So if you can imagine, what if somebody adopted that whole culture and then spun off and said, well, I can get rich like how they was getting rich off of me when they get older. It's a perpetuation of things that someone say, well, I struggled, I made it through it so they could make it through it. And they don't care about what other people go through. So from the perspective that I'm looking at it as a person who's experienced violence, is someone who has experienced this post-traumatic stress disorder. They allowed themselves to get captivated in it when there are outlets, like the brother say. You can go find you a church. You can go find you some Hebrew brothers somewhere. You go find you a Nation of Islam. You can go find somebody that you can align with that can help give you that structure, that order, that business about being God-like. But many of them choose, like you say, that is not freedom. It's called liberty. Freedom is something misidentified. What people have is liberty. That's why they got the Statue of Liberty out there. Liberty means you can do whatever you want to do in the confines of what I say you can do. That's what liberty is. Liberty is a military word. It's a word that says you can take leave when I tell you to. If you abide by my rules, my laws, my codes, you can do and get away with these things. But when you cross the line, if you start talking about killing me versus killing your own, I got to put you in jail. I got to put you on CNN, after I've taxed you, after I've beat you, bucked you, raped your women, all of these different things. But can we in the modern day blame the people here for that? No, but what we can point out to them is that you're perpetuating the will of your ancestors upon us through all the codes that existed through these new statutes. And you can see them still running, like in education, with telling lies.
Would you say that stereotypes of an ill-mannered behavior of a minority few has fueled the bitterness and fighting between our men and women?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that to some degree, but it would be bias of me, because then I'd have to say, what is their background? Like what information that they have programmed in their brain, like you say, from a child. What was their childhood experience like? Did they have a father reading books to them and showing them pictures of, hey, this is what they did to us. We don't surrender. Your job not going to be to go out and walk and march no more. Your job is going to be to get in that boardroom. I need you to go get the knowledge. I need you to understand how they live better than how we live. And so now we can do the same thing and level up. So I have to look at, when we say that kind of thing, like what experience did this person come into this fold with, so we can, properly dissect to get them a cure, like you do with any kind of medical condition.
Diallo put a question here. Diallo, can you do you mind breaking down what this message you just put in here, please, sir?
What was the question?
10-year chart on Black marriage and divorce and family.
That was just some information based on looking at the patterns of our relationships based on stats. When we were talking about marriage and divorce. Taking a look at, we have to look at patterns and every kind of situation, why there's a divorce rate at that rate. How was it different? We have to look at everything and in order for us to understand how do we move forward, how can we project a better and a longer, stronger family structure. And that's the same thing across the board. I mean, it was 100% during slavery.
Yeah.
Employment, marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, I think after it got out, after that, you had Jim Crow. You had another 100 years of systemic racism, racist policies and practices. And then after that, of course, you had your mass incarceration. So you have that. Then you have all the platforms that so-called Black people depend on. They don't own or control. So ownership and controlling platforms. We talk about our communities, but we really don't have any community. When you go to Brooklyn and you see the Jews, they have a community. Begins and ends with Hebrew and maybe some English. They have their own fire department. They have their own thing. When you had the brother Iman Jamil in Atlanta, he had a community on the West End. So you have when you have community. Even if you want to go back to Imam Isa Dr. York in Brooklyn, they had Yahweh Ibn Yahweh Miami. These people had communities. But of course, a lot of them were up under religious versus creating or cultivating a culture where our diverse backgrounds can live and have a common goal. The common goal is liberation. That's what we're always fighting for. We're always fighting for liberation. And those who are at war with the opposite are people who have character and psychological issues. Because if you love your man, if you love your woman, I'm never at odds with them. We create an atmosphere so that they can be the best version of themselves. And she knows to create an atmosphere so that we can be the best version of ourselves. And that's almost natural to be feminine and for him to be masculine. And when that's balanced, and if it's something that you want to be a part of, you work, you fight, you protect to keep that.
You just brought out a real good point, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to elaborate on this. And this stems from the roots aftermath of the post-traumatic slave distress or disorder, however you want to call it. It has produced a lot of broken people. And we went from generation for the last 400 years of many of us walking around here unhealed, and we're still carrying our pain bodies. You know how you hear African spirituality people, they talk about shadow work a lot. They talking about the pain bodies that a lot of us are carrying, and we have not been on no healing journeys, and we're carrying our traumas, and we pour it into our relationships. Like me, for an example, I missed 30 years with my biological father. I didn't unite with him until I was 30 years old. And I've seen him like maybe only 3 or 4 times in my life before then. And so I had to learn how to love a man. I had to learn how to, I have to put it like this. I wasn't even aware that I had an issue within myself because I didn't get that foundation from him. You know what I mean? So I didn't have it to give it to a man. And I think this is what a lot of Black women are going through. And so the Black woman is considered the backbone of the household. So if the household is not right, then you're going to have a broken nation. And then everybody else is going to be ahead of us. But back to the pain bodies. A lot of us walking around here, we're emotionally 12 and 6 years old and don't even know it. And you can really see where somebody is at when you get into a conflict or an argument with them. That's when you really can see where they're at. They may be 35 or 46 years old, but emotionally they're 12 because they're still trapped in a little girl or little boy's body because they have not addressed their issues from their brokenness from the families. They didn't get enough hugs from their mother. They came up in a fatherless household. They was abused or bullied by their siblings. So this thing, we can go all night. We can go real deep with this. So what do you all think about that?
I'm gonna jump in and say something else real quick. You're talking about a lot of hurt, and the other things you mentioned they all come from hurt people. When you say that these spouses are going to see each other, these things come from hurt people. And the saying is, of course, hurt people hurt people. But knowing everything that you just mentioned is traumatized out. I ain't gonna say sometimes, but what the idea is this: the people on here are not gonna be able to heal the 30 or 40, 50 million black people. But what could help heal is putting up sustainable context, right? And I mean actual brick and mortar buildings, information. I mean, this stuff has to be around the clock, of course, because you'll go crazy and sick trying to heal everyone, right? You may not have the capacity to, so you have to. The key is always to if you have the intelligence, you duplicate your intelligence outside of yourself so that others can be able to get and tap into that. It's like a franchise, in other words. So if you have what we call African-centered psychologists, when you have people who may be like a Dr. Amos Wilson, when you have people like a Dr. Juwanza Kunjufu, when you have these people that have already put this stuff out over and over and over and over again, somehow only a small fraction of us is able to get this type of information.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I can go into some other stuff about frequency and all this other stuff, but the key is always, if you know all of this stuff, then if you have the capacity to fix it, then one of the key ways to fix it is spend your entire life trying to fix things. Is we create situations so that plenty of people can go to that instead of just for you. That's it.
Yeah.
I want to say something on this as well. This is Felicia, and I see some things a little different when it comes to being raised by a father and not a mother. A lot of times, we as women, we talk about not having the father in the home, but having a father in the home and seeing, his eyes instead, through his eyes, raising women. It was a whole different perspective for me, meeting my Black woman and understanding the dynamics that we put on Black men, and how we tend to not see the importance of them being there and understanding what their needs are. That I look at that totally different than most women would look at that. And the other thing that I want to piggyback on too is that I feel like in society, a lot of us, we say that people are, the white society is putting things on us. But if you look at it, we are stereotyping, typing ourselves. We made the Black hoodie something bad. We made sagging. We brought that out. And that's why people look at us, because we create these things for ourselves. And then we say, why do you want to be like me? Or why are you looking at me? When you've created that yourself. No one did that for you. You did that. So a lot of times, because we're not speaking the truth and we're not saying that our own people sold us too now, we got to look at that part too.
Yeah.
So when we don't deal with the truth of what it really is, then we lose because we don't want to talk about those subjects. And we say the Mexicans and the whites and the Jews and all of them have, what they do is they come together. When you look at the Chinese culture, or let's say the Asian culture, they'll bring their people here. You work for 12 months or 2 years or 5 years, however long it takes for your family to get off the ground. We can help each other do that. How many Black families will take in their family for 5 years and take care of them until they're on their feet? You don't know that. You haven't seen that. So we're looking at other cultures saying, why can't we do it? It's because we don't do it, because our mentality is, if I got it, you got to get it. If I worked hard, you got to get it. And instead of us saying, how can I help you? And then bringing these people in our homes and showing them how they can get help and help them, We talk about it. We'll get in there. You staying here too long. You eating up all my bread. You doing whatever. We look at the very small things that are happening instead of saying, how can I help you really get to where you need to be? And I digress right there. I'm sorry, because I'm getting a little emotional about it.
No, sister,
I'm
you're
trying
on
not
point.
to break out and cry myself too, because this is deep.
Yeah, that's the big picture, sister. That's something I personally observed in construction, watching people come from other countries. And, my person helped coach some of these people that came in to do work for us. And then within 5 to 8 years time, sometimes I dropped them off to their home. They had no vehicle, but they lived in a house with 10, 12 people. And now, here we are in 2024, these folks have multi-million-dollar construction companies. Because they, like you said, they took their family in, they went to Mexico, Colombia, Honduras, Brazil, or wherever, and brought them up, and they went and got a big house. House costs $10,000 a month. But guess what? If you got 20 people up in there paying $500 a month, the house is not as expensive, and you still living large, and you living nice, and your bills are lower.
But many of us are selfish and greedy, and all these ain'ts and ain'ts and ain'ts. So how this is one reason why I feel like we don't trust each other, because we don't treat each other right. Now, I'm not saying all, but a lot of us, we just don't treat each other right.
Sister, I'm glad you just said that, because that'll go ahead and segue this question and y'all can continue. But the question is, does envy and jealousy, is that a factor in the strife that's brewing between us?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a big factor.
Continue, sister.
It's a big factor in our community when it comes to jealousy and envy, because we all think on the individualism mindset where we have to have something, outside our budget. We trying to impress people that don't even give a care about us, robbing our communities, lying to our communities, betraying our communities just to get to where that person want to be.
Mm-hmm. And we have to get away from that. As soon as we can get away from that, that's when I can see we can progress collectively.
I just want to add something. I've been listening. I wanted to bring it in, but I was trying to give people a chance to talk. I've been doing a lot of focusing on Nehemiah. And Nehemiah, he's seen that the city of Jerusalem was ruined. He seen that his people from their home was ruined. And he had a heart for them. He understood, he started off understanding that they was in that predicament because of the wrong they did. And he acknowledged that. But then he went before the Father on their behalf, and God gave him a solution for it. He wanted to go back and rebuild the walls. And he overlooked everything everybody else, all those other nations around him had to say about him going back to rebuild those walls. But my point is, he had a heart for those people that was left behind. And he went and did something about it. And he got people together like-minded to make the change that need to be seen, what need to be done. So I know y'all was going the other way with the questions, but I think a lesson from Nehemiah is
you breaking up, brother.
Change they wanted to see and rebuild. Look at that strategy he did. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me better now?
Got to get rid of that Obama phone, preacher.
Yeah.
Man, I'm driving, man. I'm driving, bro. I'm driving. That's my brother. But yeah, but we take a note for Nehemiah, and one part I like the best about it was bigger than him. It was bigger than him. It was more for the people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we get that we can produce a real change. Like my boy Dollar was saying about ownership and all that. If all of us start coming together on one accord, we can produce the change we want to see.
Yeah. That's what's up.
Yeah,
We
one
we
person
want to
thinks
hear
that
from a millennial too.
Sister Yadoa had her hand up for a while.
No, it's okay. I was just like agreeing with the brothers and sisters, especially, at one time I was part of an organization where there were people within the organization that had their own businesses, but this particular person wanted all to be about them, buying their products, they're putting up their flyers and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute. If you're preaching self-sufficiency, why not buy among your own? Why not build with your own? I'm currently married to a brother from the continent, and he's from Ghana. And when they get over here, they do something called a zuzu, where they each put some money together to start a business. Or even my husband's family, when his nephew came to the United States, they picked one family member, okay, you're going to stay at their house until you get on your feet. And you have to deal with the person, whether you like it or not, whether you like the food or not, whether you like the color of the toilet paper. You do what you gotta do. You put your money together until you find your own. And then when the next person comes over, you do the same thing. And that's how it's supposed to be done. So it can be done among us. It can be done. We have to get out of our mind. And the same thing goes with the gender war between our male and female. When you got a brother, and another thing we need to understand, sometimes brothers, I'm sorry to tell you this, among us sisters, we're taught we're supposed to settle. We're taught that. I was taught that. I was taught, don't go outside your race. Be one of your own kind. If you got potential, hold on with them, sister. Hold on with them, sister. Stick your nails in, sister. No matter what he says to you, stay with that man. And then we end up hurt. Another issue with the gender wars is that you got hurt brothers and sisters that never heal, and they just go to the next person and the next person. They're being taught, the old saying, how to get over one person is to get underneath another one.
Yeah.
Or get on some cases, if your man get on top of another one.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject right there.
That's another issue right there. Do you understand that people are walking around in our community giving out STDs, which is spiritual transmitted diseases? It goes beyond the physical. This is a spiritual issue.
Yeah.
Or what kind of mother they had. Hurt mothers can hurt brothers, and then you got these poor brothers going out there. You the first woman in their life. You done hurt them. You done be little because you're mad to daddy. And now you say, okay, now I'm going to take this same pain you gave me and I'm going to spread it around and make a whole bunch of babies.
Yes, ma'am.
That's another issue right there. You have some of these mothers out here, they mistreat the sons because every time they look at that little boy, it makes them think about his father. And she's angry with him and she take it out on the son.
So I don't just blame brothers. I know
women have to stop doing that too.
Stop doing this.
Because it creates narcissistic men. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it does.
It does. It does. We have
help.
They see when, they're a product of their environment, hurt people. I saw my parents, have arguments and things like that. And it was abuse there. And excuse me. Okay. And there was abuse there. But I guess when my mom finally got to the point of when she was tired. But it had already affected us as women because we were taking on some of those relationships. In a relationship just because a man can take care of you and whatever, but if he put his hands on you, just trying not to make him look bad, and then coming from a Pentecostal background, you stick it out with your husband. You don't shame the man you work with, and whether he's right or wrong, you pray for him, you know, in prayer, and you go in your prayer closet and you pray this man back right, and you stick by him.
Mm-hmm.
You just figure out a way to say, to just muster up enough strength and faith to walk away from that and being there for your children, being there because you want to raise your kids in 2-parent households, because you know you don't want your children to be around another man, so you're just settling for, you know, people just now learning to cohabitate. You know, you go your way, I go my way, and you do your thing, I do my thing. And so it's like we just settling as a culture, as a community, we're just settling for long as I got a man, long as he paying my bills, you know, and that's it. Or with a man, you know, long as I see her tomorrow night and I ain't got to talk to her for the rest of the week. It's just becoming normal to be just a convenience, you know, to satisfy desires and our own needs and wants.
Yeah, see, that's another issue right there too. We have a lot of our people, men and women, they don't want or they don't like to be alone. Sometimes we need to be alone because you need to press that reset button and filter out the negative energies that we're carrying within ourselves. That used to be my problem too when I was younger. I didn't want to be by myself. That when I was in my 20s, I used to put up with stuff, and I couldn't go a week without a man up under me. I didn't want to be by myself. You have a lot of women, they still struggling with that.
Yeah.
And we need to, sometimes you need to be by yourself, even if it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You know, we got to spiritually cleanse.
Yes.
I want to go back. I'm sorry. I want to go back to jealousy and envy. And both the definitions of that, there's this word called resentment, which also goes into people feeling like they are disappointed. A lot of times when we talk about envy and jealousy, we have to make sure that we're defining those words correctly, because I don't think a lot of times people are jealous or envious of what you have. It's the resentment that they feel that they've been disappointed in some way. In other words, thinking that what you have, how can I get that? We have to be careful that when, you know, to whom much is given, much is required. So when we think about jealousy and envy with people, or thinking that they are jealous or envy of us, we have to also realize that when we have those things that we have, we can't throw that up in their face or make it seem as if we got it and I'm giving you some help. If you're helping me, the help does not come with you saying, I got this and I got that and I did this and I did that. It's how can I help you get where you want to be? And so I think sometimes we leave out the fact that we throw it up in others' faces of what we have instead of just completely saying to them, I'm here to help you. Now, with the thing of women, I also feel like we settle because that's what, like you said, we've been taught to do that. Now, again, I say women, I was raised by a man. My father didn't teach me that. He didn't teach me just to allow a man to take over and do whatever. He was letting me know that a man is important in the family, but you're also important. So when it comes to pain and hurt and allowing yourself to be in position where you are the woman, because you are the woman and you are the prize, don't forget that he himself is also the prize. And so in order for us to work this relationship, both of us have to be on one accord. And that's where we get back to what the word says, and that is being evenly yoked. So take your time. If you take your time and get to know what's in your bag, is what I call it. You got to know what's inside of you first before you can share that with somebody else. And that's why we could sometimes get stuck, because we don't even know what's in us. You know, what are we giving to these men that's making us treat us the way they're treating us? You know, look inside yourself first, you know, and then you can discuss with that man and be evenly yoked with him before y'all decide to go into another plane of life. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, we have to work on that pain body.
Okay, so
Yeah, like
before anyone else speaks, we're going to be moving to our next segment, which is correct. So I'm going to get Elder Chukuri to speak on that briefly, because we really do need to move forward, and we've kind of been on this for over an hour. So Brother Chukuri, go ahead, and then we're going to move on to our next segment. And those who I sent the agenda to, you should have what we're going to be speaking on that area already. So Elder, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, and greetings to every one of us.
Greetings.
Really,
from Nigeria.
Greetings, Hetep.
Yes, brother and sisters. In fact, I quickly wanted to bring in, the little thing that I believed that we should be able to understand. You know, when we talk of this ingathering, returning back home or coming back home, we must not forget about our passion, which our passions, which is one of the problems within us that we are at war with. You know, where we found ourselves. And if you look at the scriptures or the Bible that we tend to follow, you will see that in James 4, 1-10, talks about where cometh wars among us. And then you now see that it's about our desire. When we can't meet them, when we can't get them, where we want to be, where we cannot be, what we want, we cannot get it. And then the reason is about this, our returning from unholy living or righteousness, the wrong choices, and to seek. I remember the ancient part, ancient part, it does not have anything to do with Abraham's ancestors. It has to do with Jacob, where our story began as a people. Because most of our ancestors were able to be sold because of what they will eat in Africa to contribute to the enslavement of our people, or sold out of our people. So you can see there is a force that came into them or among them, which is a mixture of forces, unclean spirits. And now we are talking about what is of Yeshua, which is light, which is truth, which is love, which is the Torah. So I think we should be able to be giving thanks to the Almighty, to the Most High, for gathering us together, first of all, and then for us to be here together with all our heart, in finding the full meaning of who we are as a holy people, as a peculiar people of God, from the black race. Because already we have our brethren, all corners in Africa coming together, having their congregations and all that, like the Jews or like other people here in America. But the blacks here are coming up, and which is why the Most High brought me also into America, and many of us, to connect with our people into our own Jewry. So that is where we are. So I think we are making a great headway, but we have to be based on the Torah, on the biblical, because that is where the whole thing we needed, is. So that's what I want to say briefly while we move on.
Okay.
Okay, so we want to move on to correct the mistakes. And the first part of that we want to deal with is behaviors and attitudes. For example, things you may have heard people say, why can't Black women be quiet? Or I'm not disrespectful, you are just too weak and emotional. So part of this gender war, you often hear a lot about who can't shut up, who has a bad attitude. You hear Black women complain about the disrespect coming from Black men and vice versa. So who would like to speak on what they've seen or observed when it comes to our attitudes towards each other, the lack of respect we have for one another?
It'd be nice to hear from a millennial for once. We have any millennials on here?
I guess I'm something like a millennial. But I think that goes into the serving, you know what I'm saying? The serving is like, which goes in and outside. I think that the serving, as far as attitudes and the behaviors, goes back to identity. You know, like what do we define a man as? What do we define a woman as? And I think that reflects on how you will move in your attitude. Because if you understand from a, scriptural perspective, it's, the Messiah taught us, he said, he didn't come to be served, but he came to serve. So if everybody took the attitude of to serve first, right, and not to just be sitting like, oh no, you serve me, then I don't think that would eliminate, the love would eliminate all of that, because it goes inside and outside the community. Because, just like when we were talking, just the previous question that flows into the previous thing, is that when you have a group, most people that's poor want to be like the rich people to rule over other people. But it's usually never like, okay, if you poor, let's serve one another to help each other get out of this situation, right? But that goes with why there is a divide, is because everybody wants to be number one, but nobody's saying, okay, the greatest among you will be the servant, right? So for us to be great, we have to first fix our heart, which goes to repentance, which goes in believing in the Messiah, you know what I'm saying? Believing in your creator who created your being, to get his spirit. And once you get his spirit, he gonna help you think like, that's how when you go back to the image and likeness, he gonna start to change your thoughts. So you can begin to think like he wants you to think how he originally made you. So you can move in a different spirit, not of this world, that say, you know what, before I say me first, what do you need? How can I help you? Right? And make sure they get that. And then if the other person do that, oh man, there ain't gonna be no gender wars. You know what I'm saying? Ain't gonna be no gender wars, because that's gonna be eliminated. Like the brother said, it's like the passions and the lust to capitalize, to exploit, to abuse, to do all these things come from the selfish ambition, right? And so that selfish ambition got to be eliminated out of the community, period. You see what I'm saying? That's why when they said I'm gonna land with this, that's why they said in the talk in the Panthers that, hey, you got to educate people first, because they'll be wanting to be like their oppressor. They'll be wanting to capitalize, that's why, when people get into black capitalism is the answer. It's like, no, man, like love is the answer. Love, serving and loving one another is the answer. It sounds simple, but it's not that simple. You know what I'm saying? But when we start thinking about each other first and putting each other first, and to say, you know what, let me love you. What do you know what I'm saying? What do you need? How do you need to be loved? And stick with that. And then we can start to move. But if we don't, if we have that selfish ambition to rule and to exploit, it ain't going nowhere. It's gonna go right back in the circle and keep going in the circle till we figure it out. That how we gonna get out of this situation is to love one another.
Right. Right. That's why we're having this platform and going over this topic now.
And loving got to start with self.
Right.
I can't love somebody else if I don't love myself. And how you gonna love me if you don't love yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about self-preservation first, and then we spread the love that we have within us, because
I think they got to be defined too. You got to define what, I think we have to define what loving self, because some people can say they love themselves, but it's like overdrive. It's like, you know, them first, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I used to think like that too, but I'm saying, like, when you can eat, let's say you got 2 meals, right? We got enough food. We got enough food for, it's 2 of us. We got enough food for 1 of us, right? Like, with that principle, do we say, okay, do we eat first? You know what I'm saying? Does one person, like, who eats first? You see what I'm saying? And if one had control over the meal, does the other person give the meal to the other person to eat? Like, that's where I think the narrative is. Like, what do we got to define, like, what does
Not
you know what I mean?
with the example that you're using is, if we have 1 plate of food, we're gonna take turns. Each you get a spoonful, I get a spoonful, so we can eat equally.
Okay,
Because
good. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Yeah, no, I'm just defining. I just want to know to define that, because I know I've heard people say love. You know, we gotta love each other first, but then it's like, okay, well, but their love is saying love each other first. It's like, okay, well, that means that, you know, if your car, you know, if I see you in a ditch, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna drive by because I got my priorities first. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be like the definition of what love.
That's not a person that love themselves to me, because if the shoe was on the other foot and that person who rolled by that person was in the ditch, they would have wanted somebody to stop for them and put it and help them. So when you're loving someone else, you loving someone else just the way that you want to be loved and treated. I'm not gonna love nobody no more than my level of love. Because if a person don't love themselves anyway, they're not gonna stop side the road, because they just thinking on getting where they need to be. Let the police do whatever they call 911, and they can do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we need to go back to who is love, which is, you know, Yahuwah and his son. We got to find out, you know, it's not that we love, but who first loved us.
Mm-hmm.
Shalom,
what about someone else? What about
also,
someone on here from another spiritual community? What is your perspective on what they're saying?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, who's that?
Oh, Shalom. Yes, I'm also from the spiritual community. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wasn't sure if I was on or not. My name is Yadiah with YS Ministries, and just based off of what we just heard between the young brother and the sister, I do think that to answer your question, as far as, like, you know, our women being loud, or our men versus our men being weak, I think a lot of the issue is the ability to yield. When I'm a blind individual, but so I don't drive, but anything you operate that has wheels that has to get somewhere has one driver. Now, does that mean that the passenger is useless? Absolutely not. Because a second pair of eyes is always a good thing, because you drivers know that you guys have blind spots, right? So how great would it be to have somebody there supporting you in that vehicle and it's transporting, right? I think that a lot of us in our particular households, as melanated or Black or Israelite individuals, we we missed out on seeing the opportunity of a man and a woman working together and what that really looks like. Because when a woman gets loud, it's not because she's just enjoying yelling and screaming. Now, there may be some, but we're not going to go on that topic right now. But for the ones that get like that, it's because she's not feeling secure, right? So, and if I'm going back to the analogy with the vehicle, if a man is driving this car and he is swerving, he is kind of veering into traffic and then back into the straightaway, he almost hit a person, and she's halfway in and out the car. She's wanting him to pull over. Anybody in their right mind would be yelling, screaming, trying to figure out, like, what are you doing? Can you hear me? Do you see? Can you see? There's all kinds of stuff going on because she feels like we're going to wreck or we're going to hurt somebody else. If you expect a woman to be so submissive to sit there in that car so peaceably while you drive recklessly, that may not be even a good woman to be with, because she doesn't care any more about her life than you do yours.
That's a good point.
Now, on the flip side of that, when we talk about as far as a man being weak, we do get a lot of our strength from you women. There's more that we'll do for a woman than we'll do for our own selves. Anybody on here who's ever raised a teenage boy will find out real quick how much he falls in love with a shower when he falls in love with a woman. But prior to that, hey, you grow out of that eventually. Well, hopefully. And so the weakness that we discuss a lot of times, we didn't have the men in our lives either to know what it looks like to be a man. And our women get to see the Caucasians making money and doing this, that, and the third. But I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of Caucasians and they're not happy at home either a lot of time. And it's not for the same reasons. It's not about the money. When the Father put us together as man and woman, it was to come together as one. He didn't say to be rich. He didn't say to be keeping up with the Joneses. He said to love each other for richer, for poor, for better or for worse. So whether we're under a bridge or in a mansion, and of course, none of us want to be under a bridge. And according to scripture, you may not want to be in a mansion either, because you don't want it to distract you from making it to the kingdom of heaven. But regardless of what the situation is, if we're doing our best to follow Yah, then we need to be supporting each other towards that goal, whatever the image may look like, and not making that man feel less of a man because he's not providing what you thought life was supposed to be, as opposed to what he's providing. Because we want to be at peace. We want to be content. It doesn't mean we want to be eating beans out of a can, but it may possibly mean that we'll never eat caviar, and we'll be okay with that. And if that's not something the woman is okay with the husband that she has, and he's making, let's say, $50K a year, and that's just not enough for her, that doesn't mean that man is weak. She's ungrateful. Or wanted something more. And so we compare. We don't trust in Yah and the people that he matches us with. And then we want to compare with everything else, and the grass we think is always greener on the other side. I firmly believe in submission to a woman submitting herself, to her husband, just as we submit to the Father. But I think that the courting process towards that, I think virginity is very important to take place, but our young people are being perversed from every angle through these phones and other things. So there's a lot of things that have to get this ball rolling first before, and I know you guys talked about the spiritual STDs. I really like that analogy, but yeah, I yield.
I want to say something really quick, because again, we are all, well, not all, but there's a lot of different faiths and beliefs here this evening. And we're dealing with the correct part right now. So we were speaking about, Black women being quiet, and, people justifying their rudeness with saying a person is just too emotional. But regardless of what you believe, respect is not based on faith. You understand? Because you don't know, when you go to work, you don't always know what your boss, his faith or her faith is, yet you give them respect, okay? But for whatever reason, when we're dealing with one another, as whether you identify as Israelite, Black person, original, person, whatever your identity is, for some odd reason, we cannot give each other respect. Business-wise, relationship-wise, just walking down the street, you're mean mugging somebody like you're ready to fight them, and you don't even know them. You know, women, Black women, we're supposed to always talking about the sisterhood, the sisterhood, the sisterhood, but let a brother look at both of you and now she to be down the street, that hoe over there, you know, she ain't your sister no more once brother start looking both your way. You understand me? So it's a lot of hypocrisy in that. I feel that why we don't respect each other. And all of this, you know, Black unity, and we need to come together. Some say come together under Yah, but under the Bible says, how can two even walk together unless they agree? We can't even agree on which Bible to use, what name to call God, you know, whose God is God, man is God, woman, you know, so there's so many things. And I always, to me, it does kind of go back to slavery, because I think us in America, Black Americans, it seems like we go through it more than I see the Caribbeans, Black, you know, slaves, the Central American people of the slave trade don't seem to have as much what I'm trying to say, division and strife amongst their men and women like we do, you know? And again, like the brother was saying, he believes in submission, like women should be submissive. And yes, as I am a believer in the Bible and of the Most High, yes, I do believe a wife, you know, should respect and submit to her husband. But again, when you go back, you got to go back to the slave. If you see him as a slave and he see you as a slave, who's going to submit to the slave? Everybody submit to the master. But if you can't even see yourself as being a master because it's ingrained in you that I'm a slave, I'm a slave, I'm a slave, or I'm a descendant of a slave, why would I respect you? Who are you? You just another slave. You know what I mean? So until we can get back to understanding our identity goes beyond us as being slaves or descendants of slaves, it's going to be hard, I think, for us to really see any value in one another, to where we need to respect one another. Because we will talk all day about the white man or the white system and all of this, but let that white system come in your face and I guarantee you is yes, sir, no, ma'am. But when you see your brother, it's yeah, what, huh, who, nigga, what, you know? And I'm not supposed to say the N-word, but I'm sorry, but you know, that's how it is.
Yes, it's true.
You know?
So how do we come up with a solution from that? How do we overcome that?
I think, sister, is communication. I think a lot of us, we just talk, and we don't listen. We don't listen for an answer. We listen for just to respond, you know, just to be able to hear yourself speak about something. But, you know, in order for you to respond correctly, you have to be able to listen to what the person is saying. And I think a lot of times we just don't listen. We have a problem with communication. Yeah.
But the thing is, based on what some of us have said already, a lot of sense, a lot of spiritual wisdom came from what we are doing or we have said so far. And then, but the most important thing there is our obedience. First of all, to study, because you can discover this truth by studying. And then another one is by revelation. And if you look at David or Solomon or from Judah, where we are, you can see the wisdom there. Why we are kings and queens. The wisdom, the authority. And then, so what am I saying? The whole duty or the end of the whole conclusion of the whole matter is to fear the Most High and keep his commandments. It is important that we desire to obey, to do individually, because we have something to do with the Most High as a person and as a people collectively. So person first before a people, so that the people will see the Most High in you, in us, by our wills, the signs and the power, the signs. It's all in us. Signs and wonders should follow us, them that believe. It's not we that we are the witnesses. It's going to follow us. So then our wives, our husbands will be able to see, and then they would make a U-turn from their ways. Like some of our brothers have said, our sisters. Dennis, I think he said something very important that we grasp. I think we got it. That we should be struggling to be servants, everyone, so that Yah will exalt us. We cannot exalt ourselves. So, and if you look at in the beginning, actually we know there are boundaries. We know there are boundaries and order, of course, which we see the high priest, and then the Levites, and then the ministers, and then the elders, and then the mothers' council, and then the parents, and then the men of Judah, and then the daughters of Zion. You see them in this form. Even from above. That's the way it is in the scriptures. So we know that women, they don't speak. We know what happened, actually. They don't speak. And when Miriam spoke, we saw what happened. Not just because of, but that she has no authority. And then if you go to Genesis 3:15, you see that because of what happened between the woman from the beginning, whom in her dreams had a relationship, knowing what relationship is all about, and having sex or whatever, spiritual, they call it spiritual husband or marine spirit, coming in spirit in the dream and make love. So the woman knew, was with that seed in the beginning. But then if you look at what it is, because of that, that was why. But are we saying that the Most High cannot see the end from the beginning? So he is the creator of order and boundaries, not confusion. So he now said, you cannot lord over your wife. You cannot lord, even as he has given you the authority to love her, to be able to be prepared to die for her. We know what that means. And then at the same time, so anyway, let me not take us much far, but the main point of us gathering ourselves is because the Most High have said he's going to gather us, and this is the time. It is the time. Yes, this is the time. So we are in the time. So now what we need to always pay attention to is the scriptures, the Bible, the commandments to study, for the scriptures to approve every one of us. Yeah, it's in us and should be everywhere. So let me leave it here for now, but I'm grateful to the Most High for every one of you. And
thank you, Elder.
Yes, the conversion is
over half of the panelists come from different backgrounds and different religions, so some of them may not have any idea what you're talking about, but I hear you.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings and shalom, everybody.
Peace and love.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Yeah, I'll just be really brief, and unfortunately I can't stay on for the whole meeting, but I'll just put my little input out there. I saw a question I asked by the sister earlier, why are we, and then she said it hadn't been answered yet, why are we still beefing, the so-called black man and the so-called black woman, and, who started this thing and all that. I think we're still beefing because it's a multi-tiered, there are multiple sources for the beef, right? And I think it started really heavy after like the 60s, after we came together with the Black Panther Party and all that. Our enemies had a hand in it, of course. And not only that, we had enemies amongst our own people that helped them, facilitate that, right? And bottom line is that they got it going, but the issue is that we filled with too much ego. We are the salt of the earth. We're more passionate than most people. But unfortunately, with that passion, it tends to get chaotic, and the bad parts of it come out instead of the good parts that when we need it, right? So we're carrying on that beef because we can't get out of our own way. We cannot. It's really extremely difficult, if not almost impossible, for us to humble ourselves before each other as a man and a woman, because what tends to happen is when you humble, let's say we start this ball rolling and we start trying to check ourselves and our behavior, right? Try to be more respectful, try to listen to correct our own actions instead of just to reply, right? Let's say we start doing that. The other person, uh, they may not want to humble themselves because they feel like, okay, if I humble myself before this sister, or the sister may say, if I humble myself before this brother, then I feel like they're gonna get a one up on me. There's always that struggle and that battle of, okay, will they take advantage of me? Can I trust them? But look, man, we have to do something. We have to, our inability to take accountability for our own actions is at an all-time high. Isaiah 58, and I know not everybody here, of course, deals with the scripture like that. But Isaiah 58, it does have a great prescription in there how we should deal with each other. One interesting thing was it mentioned in the scripture how we as a people, we always putting forth of the finger. We always putting blame towards each other, pointing the finger at each other. Can we put that aside and put our own ego aside to help all of us come up and win? That's the crucial question. And I spoke with Sister Raphaala about this a little bit earlier. Personally, there is going to come a time when we're going to,
Do you mind me asking, is that your Corvette?
Say again, ma'am?
Oh, excuse me. That was a device. We listening, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody tried to chime in. Okay. Yeah, I think that unfortunately, in the days ahead, coming up probably here soon, we're going to be given power to go forth and do certain things, to do things. And with this power and responsibility, we're going to have to gather those of our people that, and even after we get ourselves straight, then we can kind of work on the other nations too. But we're going to have to gather our people that are willing to deal with the weightier matters of the law: justice, mercy, faith. Those that are willing to be respectful and get on the same sheet of music. Those that are willing to not betray our people. Okay, we got to gather them first. And those that don't get on board, we just got to leave. We got to leave them. We have to leave them. It sucks. It sounds terrible, family, but that's what's gonna happen, because it's kind of like if you take the story of even the Exodus and other stories, when the Israelites came out of Babylon, when they were, freed from that oppression. Everybody can't go with this. There are some people some of our people are so destroyed mentally by the Babylonian beast system, till we're going to have to unfortunately leave them to their own devices. And those of us that have the wisdom to rebuild our people can actually do it. So, but as far as why are we still beefing, it's a combination of the enemy and us playing into the enemies, into their games, into their schemes, right? And us not catching it early to stop that nonsense. That's what's really going on. And my brother here says sin is transgression of the law. Correct, brother. That has a heavy hand in it, but we got to be more specific. We have to really zone in on what we're doing. The whole, and I'm almost done. The whole thing with our people is no respect, lack of accountability, no discipline in ourselves to really come together and build properly as a family unit, and which will grow our community, right? We are unwilling, and sometimes when our people get a leg up, they tend to get selfish and they go off and do their own thing and forget about the rest of our people, the community. So we have all of these issues going on. But as far as a relationship between the black man and the so-called black man and so-called black woman, we're just gonna have to get with like-minded individuals. And can we fix the problem? Can we fix the problem? With certain people, yeah. With certain people, certain ones of us. Everybody else, I don't think we can, family. I'm just being perfectly honest. It's going to be probably, I don't know. I pray that a lot of us survive what's coming, but I don't know. But all we can do is help each other. The ones of us that are willing to take on that mission, and those that are willing to listen, bring them with us. Nothing that we'll just start over from that point. And that's just my 2 cents. Yeah. I thank you guys for letting me, speak briefly on that.
Thank you.
Hope that contributed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That was well said. Well said. But we don't want to keep you all on here long. I'm really enjoying the conversation. I wish we had more time. This was beautiful.
I do want to ask something though. Before there's something in all of what we've been saying. Because I still wish we could have got a little bit deeper on the actual turmoil, because there is a lot of it. But I think one of the key things in that turmoil is because of all the different trauma and things that have gone on in our lives, but there's no accountability, right? Because, sisters are definitely going to point the fingers at the brothers, and the brothers are pointing the fingers at the sisters. And one of, sisters are saying, well, the brothers haven't stepped up. They don't protect us, so why should we respect them? They running off to white women and other races and abandoning us, making us single mothers. They're using us and dropping us for other people. When they're broke, they want a sister. When they get money, they want to go to the other nations and give them all the wealth and leave us behind, But then you have the brothers saying, well, you sisters do the same thing, like the brother mentioned about back in the 60s, when the brother couldn't get a job, but they was elevating the sisters up. The sisters was getting college degrees. The sisters was getting, all these things. The sisters began to get, even on the lower level, as far as like government housing and all of those things, they couldn't take their men with them when they did that. So they stopped looking at their men as a provider and start looking at the government to be their providers. So that also, because a lot of times with a woman, when she can't count on her man to provide for her, she will lose some respect for him. If he can't protect me, he can't feed me, he can't give me shelter, why should I have respect for him? You understand? So a lot of that has really fueled what we got going on. Plus now we've introduced the rainbow aspect into it, and that is causing a lot of confusion between us, whose side you on that situation. And with all that being said, everybody's pointing fingers. Nobody takes blame for nothing that they're doing to contribute to this chaos. So would anybody like to speak on the accountability before we get out of here?
Yeah, definitely. I always go back to the beginning, and like I said, if you look at Adam and the whole situation, what did he do when Yahusha was coming? He blamed the woman. It was the first thing. That was his response. But the whole accountability goes back to what he didn't do, what he failed to do. So I think is, in my perspective, I think and like I said, it may be controversial. Some maybe agree with me, maybe not. But I think it is on men. I think it is on men. I think it is on men. I think whether or not, far as how women process the respect, all that, all those different things, I think it's a domino effect. When you have the children being disrespectful to parents and all these things, but it literally starts with who is going to set the tone in the house, who's the visionary, who was put in that position and you look at the order, what is it? The man is the head of, some people may not believe that, but the man is the head of woman, and Messiah is the head of man, and Abba Yahuwah is father is the head of Messiah. So it's like when that order got out of order, that's when you had the chaos. And literally, I think we're gonna keep going around in circles till people figure out, like, oh man, like, yeah, do go back to that. So yeah, the men are pointing the fingers to the women and saying, oh, you disrespectful, oh, you this or whatever. But it's no responsibility, no coming back and say, okay, we blamed everybody for what's happening in this community. When you want to go to any kind of ghetto, you want to look at any type of thing. I just look at a statistic. It said 85% of those young people in jail are coming from fatherless homes. You can pull the statistics up. You can pull the statistics up and see that this thing is hinged on the black man not taking responsibility for these things, because and society white supremacy has aided to it by creating these systems and situations to make it even harder, whether it's the 60s, the drugs, the guns, just to make it even harder to where he can never get on his feet. But at the same time, there is a way out. And, and I believe that nothing is new under the sun, right? What was going on in 2000, the same thing that's going on right now was going on 2,000 years ago. And you may think like, oh, no, it was different. Nah, black people were still oppressed, right? They were still living in ghettos. They were still living in hoods. They still had white supremacy on top of them, right? And yes, there have been some things, but also like people mentioned through the 60s and stuff, like the families and the divorce rates and all those things. But at the same point of view, though, you can also say on the flip side that there was still a division between the man and the woman.
Yeah.
Right? It was still going on. And I think that the fundamental thing is, when you go back to the beginning, the man broke down in his responsibility. Why? Because he wanted power. That's what the whole thing was in the garden. It was like, yeah, we already made in the image and likeness. Why do we want to be Alua? Why do we want to be him now? We already was given authority. We already had, that's like somebody already got the authority, but they want something more. And that's what the devil's still doing that today. Right? Oh, no, you this, but you could be that. You can get more. You know what I'm saying? So the greed, if you want to just say the word, it's the greed. So the men got to check themselves and repent, and to see how they've been processing things and how they've been thinking, to blame everybody else, to say, okay, let's take responsibility, look inside of us and see what things need to be rooted out, right? And to repent for. And that's what repentance is, really to change your mind, think different, and with the help of Yahuwah. And that's how what's going to change. It ain't going to change. Like I said, I think the women going to get together and the children going to get together when the men get it together. If we waiting on if the men gonna wait on the women to start doing right, they're gonna wait for the children to start, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? But when the men say, you know what, we come together and we have the meeting, there ain't nobody forcing us to have, right? And they get it together and the elders come and the young people, that's when it's gonna happen. When we start loving each other and say, you know what, we're gonna be one band, one sound under the band of our king, Yahusha. So that's kind of how I think. I think the men need to take responsibility. All the issues that I think from women, I'm not saying that I think there's still going to be rebels. There's still going to be rebels. There still ain't. But what I think a lot of those issues that are happening from the youth, the women, are based off how the men have been in position. You see what I'm saying? Because when men have that power, that's why people go to different nations, because the women may see the power in somebody, they may see the authority and power, right? So it's the whole thing. Now, I don't understand how far as with men going to different nations, that's a whole different thing. I don't think those are the same topics. I don't think those are apples and oranges. I don't think those are the same things. I think those are different.
David has his hand up. After you, brother, we're gonna let David talk after you.
Yeah, that was it. I just said we just need to go back to the beginning to see how it played out. It played out him pointing the finger, right? But it was his responsibility he was put in the garden to work and to guard. That was the two responsibilities he had, right? But evidently, when men break down in guarding, it's because they don't see what they have as precious. You see what I'm saying? So that's how it broke down. That's how it broke down. He didn't see it. Right. And then when it fell apart, now it's like, okay, now I I'm gonna blame somebody when they break down, but now we got to go back to the original responsibility that we had.
Oh, okay. Yeah, agree. Well said. David, you good? You don't have anything to say? You good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. I enjoyed the panel. I enjoy all the different people here. And on that last point of our women going away, I think there's a lot of us that are honoring women. A lot of us, well, speaking for me, when we learned that there was they wanted to divide us from our women. And some of the scripture, when you learn it in different sections, the part in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, it says a woman is to keep her mouth shut in the church, for God is not the author of confusion. Now, some of us will look at that and we'll be like, because we would tell, hey, you need to keep your mouth shut because you call it confusion. But we have some women that are extremely good teachers as well that are nurturing and have no ego and no ill intent. Some of them I like learning from, and getting information because they are our first teachers. So we have to balance that logic, because some people want you at odds with the women so much by any means, and we can't call them all goddesses because sometimes they don't act in a goddess capacity. I agree. But the essence is still there regardless of their behavior. And I notice when I start to verbally speak to women and honor them, and some of them, even some that I call goddess, they was like, I didn't even see myself as that. But as you started calling me that, I begin to see myself like that and change and stuff like that. And so I just like giving everybody an opportunity to be respected, before it goes to where we have to be, not nasty with each other.
Right.
So, and I don't know where I was going with that statement, but
I
yeah,
see where you're going.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I don't want the divide. I don't want the smoke. And most time I leave, there are a lot of rooms that propagate this stuff, and that's all they do day in, day out. They don't have they're not worried about dogging each other out.
Right.
So I started staying away from them rooms as well, because some of them are clickbait and to get you in. So if it's something that isn't creating solutions, if you don't get hype and high off the solutions that come to your mind, then you have to ask yourself, what's your intent? Because you can create enough solutions to take care of everything. So it all falls on you as an individual. But thank you all. And I don't want to just talk, but I thank you all for this panel. It's been very helpful with the questions and everybody chiming in. I really appreciate it. I just want to say gratitude.
Thank you. Beautiful. Well said.
Would anyone else like to hear a few more things on the last point of accountability, especially someone from the conscious community? I don't think we've heard enough from y'all.
No, we haven't.
Brother Sakep, I just been listening in, just, practicing temperance here. But yeah, so when it comes to accountability, if you're a true, if you're living what you say, especially my person is one that takes the principles and the virtues and the spiritual laws of my eye to heart. In the virtues, it says that you control your thoughts. That's where you start at. And then it says you control your actions. And so earlier, that's why I was saying, from a biblical standpoint, it says you're created in the image of God. So you got to understand, like, what does that look like? It looks like something that is the peace beyond all understanding. That's what it is. Like, people like to compare the devil to God. The devil has no disposition or any stance or place with God at all. Like, for real, like it's like you got to say to yourself, okay, after I do this thing, what's the consequence? Those are part of the cause and effect axioms of Jehuti, which is the counterpart of my eye. Many people are misled to think these are gods or goddesses, or they're actually scientific and principles and spiritual laws that you should govern your person by, your inner being by, because you are in the likeness and a qualitative amount of God. You're the breath, you're breathing the essence of God every day. But you gotta live it. You gotta sustain yourself through those virtues and principles. And I think that's where the accountability is lost, because it's not taught. Even in some adults I met in the professional world, they cannot control their thoughts. They don't control their actions. They just say stuff off the cuff. And I'm talking between the genders, as we talk about these gender wars, as it relates to, like, myself dealing with sisters who are in positions of authority, and they see that I'm totally different, and they wonder, like, well, why, if I ask you to do something, you just nod and you just go get it done? I say, because you gave a directive, you gave an order, and I'm a man of order. You need something done, I'm here to be of service. It's not an ego. It is, what can I do to be at peace and be devoted to this purpose that we're here to accomplish something? Like the brother was saying, we got to be on point to accomplish something together. And right. I think people mix up what is the masculine and the feminine when it comes to what's your role, what hat are you wearing? If you're on the job, it ain't got nothing to do with the sister being the woman. She in charge, she the boss, and you respect the order of things before you look at the gender of things. And I think that's where the accountability can become lost in the magnification of who you think you are versus, are you being like God? Are you being at peace? Are you not concerned about the day-to-day grind, but what impact of your service is left in the mind of a person that they say, I could call on Brother Dallo because I know Brother Dallo gonna show up. I could call on Brother Raul because Brother Raul gonna show up. I could call on Princess because I know when Princess comes, she coming with a smile. And every time I look around, everything is decent and in order when she gone. That's those are levels of accountability that people are not wanting to leave as hallmarks. They want to leave sometimes, from what I'm observing, is I was the best dressed. I came in, I was flossing, flashing, or, no one could stand next to me. Those types of worldly mentality. So the accountability has to start with the thoughts and setting a plan to control the actions. And it has to be programmed and reprogrammed into the mind on a daily basis.
When you talk about accountability and kind of spinning off of some of the stuff y'all was saying, one of the things that helped me throughout, I've been married 26 years now, faithfully these 26 years. And it was always realized that it was bigger than me. When we talk about accountability, I wanted to be kept. I wanted to be the husband and the father that God, the Most High, wanted me to be, So I knew that with what decisions I made when I got married comes responsibility and accountability. So I say faithful to my wife. I pray and ask God to give me the strength to be obedient, to be the husband, to be the father, all that. And then as time went on, I ain't never said I wasn't tempted, but I didn't fall because I looked at the big picture. That if I mess up, people looking at my life. You know what I mean? My children are going to spend for the decisions I made. It's going to affect them, everything. So I always seen the bigger picture. So accountability is seeing the bigger picture that is bigger than me. And then in the beginning, it was like, I don't want to hurt my wife. I made a vow before God. And then it got to a point, as time went on, what kind of legacy am I going to leave for my children? Like, what's going to be said to their father when I'm gone? So sometimes when you realize it's bigger than you, you move different. You know what I mean? And you honor God with how you live because you realize it's bigger than you. And that's what sometimes I'll just say, that's the mindset they have to take in order to be to the level that God wants them to be, because they realize it's bigger than them and lives are dependent on decisions you make because of who he called you to be.
That's beautiful. Well said.
Yes.
I think majority of the men on here have been married for more than 12, 15 years.
Yeah, over 30 for me.
Woo!
That's beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Would love to see more of that in our community. And that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, we want to let you all know, if you all need us for anything, please reach out to us and let us know how we can support you all.
I need
Definitely.
$30.
And I mean that. Yeah, I mean that. To my soul. I mean that on my soul. And we are so grateful for your time. We know your time is valuable, and you took time out from your busy schedule to kick it with us, to talk about these issues we have. And you know what initiated this whole talk panel is because for the last 3 years, they said that multiple amounts of Black women are being killed in domestic violence situation. And Black women are 6 times more likely to be unalived or to experience some type of domestic violence than any other women on the planet. So that's what initiated this topic.
You know, I'm glad that you all had this conversation. There was a young man who we recruited from Texas to attend Florida A&M University for the construction engineering program, because everything in my life revolves around is pretty heavy in construction. And you know, like most young men, he's not a bad young man, but they go off on a tangent because they are chasing this dream. And he found himself, like you said, having this domestic violence situation, and he wound up calling the authorities on the young lady. And he called me. He was trying to reach me, and I'm glad you said, you know, reach out, because that's what it's going to take sometimes for us in these positions of it's not necessarily leadership. I would say more of partnership and friendship.
Absolutely.
With people, to have sometimes just a listening ear. You know, I just let him talk and pour his heart out and was jotting down notes. And then when he finally paused, my person asked him some questions. And my first question was, you know, is your lady okay? And he was shocked because he thought I was gonna give him the attention. And I was like, is the mother of the child okay? And he was like, well, I don't know. I said, well, you called the authority on her. Did you call her family and say, hey, you know, out of this passion, I thought I had to protect me, and she and I got irate, and, you know, blows happened, and I called them, and I didn't want to go to jail because I had the better job. I said, did you at least go down to see her? So he had said no. So I told him, I said, you know, you need to stop what you're doing, and you need to go see about that sister. I said, I said, is she in the same town as me? He said, yeah, she's here. So I called up some sisters, and we went to go see about the sister. And he was a little upset at first, but I had to explain to him that, you know, if we can avoid it, we have to find people to call to internally manage our own affairs.
Right.
Because the system was not designed like you think it is. You just put something on her record. You just caused a disturbance in the force of your whole family. She can't trust you now. You can't trust her now. I say, so this is going to create a problem for the child as the child get older, and you're going to have to live and face up to what you did with the child, which is a man child. And I said, it's not going to be something lightly that you're going to be able to get away with. You know, it's not going to go well because you did that to the young man's mother. And so that's where we are with that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's up. Well said.
Does anyone have any final or closing thoughts? Is there anything you would like us to support, promote? This would be a good time to go ahead and get it out.
The Rights of a Father is available on Tubi. I am in there as an expert doctor. The Rights of a Father. Also, any of my music, you're welcome to type in RAUOB on any music platform. My music is streaming, and there's a message pretty much in every song, and it's all about you, glorifying you. Like that statement is made like by Brother Sakep, in the image and likeness we are made of, therefore we are. And it's very important that we know that so that we don't look outside of ourselves for power. All power is in us. And so I definitely try to put that in my art, my creativity, and when I speak to others. Oh yeah, and the Black Vegan Fest in Jacksonville with Brother Blue Pill gonna be in there, and a lot of great others.
October 26th, I'll be there in Florida.
And yeah, Brother Dilo is bringing that to us, and I smile when it's vegan, and even though I'm a fruitarian, I still like vegan. You know what I mean? I'm Dr. Semi Alkaline, but if I gotta get any starch in my life, then I try to make it as healthy as I can make it. So definitely support that. I'm looking forward to networking and finding out which people in my city are vegan and spiritually, trying to reduce some of these categories where I don't run into any friction.
Right.
I got to run into friction. I'd rather be by myself so I can be calm and meditating and stuff. I don't want the drama. I'm good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my stuff. Thank you.
That's what's up.
As far as promoting, I posted my email and my business name, so you can actually go check out, verify my business. So I'm mostly private. I deal with a lot of major construction, but my person does help. So my way of giving back is, if you have a home and you're building a home, or you're looking at something, or you have questions about construction, those things, my person doesn't charge the community for, because I do pretty good with my business partner in construction. We do a lot of major construction. My person probably doesn't promote myself and him enough, but if you set up a time to meet and chat with me, I'll do a presentation, show you what we've done over the last 30 years in construction, as far as our resume building for Disney, Universal, billion-dollar clients, things of that nature. So when I say I'm really into construction, it's not just around the way work. It's actually, $500 million type projects, those type of jobs. And on another note, my person has a trading club. So right now we're still in our what we call gauntlet. So anyone that wants to, figure out how to make $200-300 a day, you're more than welcome to come in the room. It's to work in reverse. We show people how to make the money, and then you can decide and donate to the nonprofit. That way you get a write-off. So we're showing you how to do things in reverse, instead of you paying for courses and never learning the inside legs and secrets of how to get some of these bags out here. Because that's how I run my construction business, is making money through trading.
Okay, that's what's up. And Sister TechiYah has a farm. She's a farmer. Sis, you want to give us some info, like a quick rundown, for less than 2 minutes, about your project?
Yes, my name is TechiYah Taylor. I go as the plant lady, and I'm located in Shreveport, Louisiana, where we, as an organization, have created a solution-based program where we're teaching our young children, young youth, how to incorporate sustainability within the school curriculum, and how we can make our youth flourish and be successful, and learning back to go to their traditional ways, and growing and teaching them the importance of growing their own food.
Mm-hmm. Your brother Diallo has a farm as well too, sis. Diallo Sakal.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And where is he located?
Jacksonville, Florida. And he's on 5 acres of land.
Yeah, she's murdering my name. It's Dalo Saku.
Forgive me, brother.
Jesus Christ. I thought we was better than that, sister.
Come on. Hey, come on now, you know. Okay, I have to send there.
Okay, well, this has been really great. We got through more of our topic points than we normally do, so I appreciate that. And we hope that, we'll have another chance to meet up with you guys for another topic, or maybe a furtherance of this one. But we appreciate you, and we really hope that you have a wonderful week. I will be kind of editing this and tweaking it up a little bit and reposting it, and we'll keep you up on that so you can, share it or review it if you want to. And I'll leave the final words to Miss Raphaala.
Well, we won't close out in prayer because we have too much going on. So peace, love, and light to you all. And you all have my phone number and contact information. We love y'all. Thank you again so much for your time. Thank you.
Why we can't hear the prayer?
Well, can we?
Yeah. Might be some special words.
Absolutely. Prayer is wonderful. I mean, if it came across the heart and the mind, it should be carried out.
All right. That's what's up. How about it, Sister Princess?
Oh, I have no issues with prayer, honey. Go ahead.
Anybody want to do it? If not, I'll do it. If a brother don't want to do it. Because, you all are the heads. I'll do it. I'm gonna go ahead and close us out in the ancient language, and then I'm gonna follow behind the interpretation with English, okay? Just so you all know. Hallelujah. Abanawa Shabbat Shemaya Kadash Haya Shamka Ahaya Malakwaka Daba'a Rataza Wanka Haya Aisha Ba'a Rataza Kawahaya Ba Shemayim Nathan Lanawa Lakam Kaya Wan Wasalak Nawa Kawa with Nawa Kasalak Nawa Kawa with Yanawa Wala Atabaya Anawa Bana Sayawan Abal Hawashai Nawa Man Rai Kaya Laka Ha Malakwa Waha Allah Waha Dapra Lah Awalam Yam. Our Father which is in the heavens, let your reign come, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into evil, but deliver us from the wicked one. For thy is the reign, the power, and the glory, and forever. So be it. I just sing there, y'all.
Shalom. Greetings, everyone.
All right, I say.
Shalom.
Peace.
Peace and blessings.
The real Hebrew Israelites.
you.